Hi, so we have with us today the beautiful, wonderful Mona Rabie from Egypt and Canada, and she is a social alchemist. So this means that she understands the underlying processes and patterns of creation and brings them into a new social operating system for large-scale co-creation. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, yeah. So alchemy is really the art and science of creation, of nature's creative process. So there's the principles and the laws and the process of creation as told in many creation myths around the world. So this knowledge is really encoded, although we can understand it and align with it, and there are structures and principles and processes behind that. That connect with the 7 forces of creation, the 7 chakras, or the 7 steps of the 7 days of creation, the alchemical process.
7 is the magic number, right?
Yeah, 7 at least is the number of creative, energies, and then there's the energy of the mother and the father and the union of, they're actually 9, they become the Ennead. But yeah, that's all part of the process, that unfolds.
Sure. And then I hear you had an alchemical marriage.
Yes, indeed, yes. So, if you look at alchemy, the symbol of alchemy is everywhere, actually. In pharmacies all around the world, you see those 2 caduceus, right, with the final 2 snakes at the top, which are representing the sacred union, the sacred marriage of the masculine and the feminine forces, which actually creates is very much connected to deep healing and, and creation. So yes, the ancient rituals and meaning behind marriage was about balancing the creative forces of the masculine and feminine into harmony, and of the diversity into unity. So it really was about how to merge the creative essences of the masculine and feminine in one. So myself and my beloved Juan Carlos Kaitan, we got married in our sacred alchemical marriage last year in Egypt. Starting at the Temple of the Mother in Aswan in the south of Egypt, and going from temple to temple, which are each, in the ancient myth, they're a part of the body of Osiris that has been cut off from itself, and Isis, the mother, she weaves those parts back together and resurrects them. So we went from temple to temple that each represent a chakra of that, of the body of Osiris, of the body of ourselves, actually, that we're piecing back together, and of our collective social body, our collective self that we are also weaving back together. We did a 7-day marriage ritual where we went through the 7 days of creation, building the seed of life, which is the sacred geometry of the 7 that starts, that's the first seed or egg, that from which all else unfolds. We co-created this with 40 of our friends in 2 boats along the Nile from temple to temple.
Wow.
And we finished with, we had the seed then created at our marriage ceremony, and we finished with the final ceremony inside the Great Pyramid on International Peace Day of projecting that seed
Powerful.
Out into the world. Yeah, and
there's something came from this, right?
Well, yeah. So one of the things that was also important is so during this marriage ceremony, we wrote a song together called the Blue Lotus Song, and it was based or inspired by an ancient prophecy in Egypt about the blue lotus was a very sacred plant and was ubiquitous in all of the Nile and the temples, and you see that when you visit Egypt, you see the lotus in the hands of the gods and goddesses in the temple, and it's a mystery. It's been missing from the land for many years, and they say that when the blue lotus returns, that
what was the blue lotus connected with?
Well, that's part of the mystery. So, it was connected to rebirth, and it was as if it could only live when the consciousness of the society was actually high enough to hold it, Okay. And so now it's gone because the society, we haven't had the consciousness to hold it, and it is returning now, and we're involved in some of those projects, in Egypt. To resurrect the lotus, but they say that when the lotus is able to return, it represents that our consciousness has reached a point as humanity that we've passed that tipping point, or that moment of rebirth, or that fertilization of a new human civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we had this theme of the lotus has been, it's in many cultures, not just Egypt, also, but many cultures around the world with the Buddha and several cultures. But we had this, we wrote a song called The Blue Lotus during the wedding journey, and and then, yes, so we did indeed end up pregnant. We found out, and we were like, we meant co-creation, not procreation, although we were quite literally invoking those forces, saying we're here at the temple of where the flood of the Nile used to be, which was representing the fertilizing force, and we were connecting with all those energies of creation, so we're not that surprised. Yes. But, so we were pregnant with our daughter Maya Lotus, who we carried for 9 months. We named her Maya Lotus, Maya after the mother of Hermes, who's the father of alchemy. Alchemy is the Hermetic art. Mm-hmm. And Maya, Maya is the mother of Hermes, and Lotus after this, the story of the Blue Lotus. And so we said, oh, well, this seed that we co-created became literal, she became manifest as the seed of co-creation. And it was a little bit strange because we said, well, it's of co-creation. How could she come manifest like this, So, this sort of beauty and tragedy of the story is that during labor, after 14 hours of labor, our dear Maya Lotus's heart stopped very suddenly. And of course, that was a surprise, although there was kind of a really underlying peace and a knowing that, of course, this seed of co-creation wasn't meant to come manifest. This is a seed for the world, It's an energy. It's to support the energy of rebirth and of the emergence of this co-creation, the creation of a new human civilization rooted in love. And that she came, manifest from that, but she was never meant to stay in that body because the passage of the path of creation is from life to death and resurrection. Mm-hmm. And only in her death could her life and us carrying her and returning her be really an offering for an offering back to the earth, for the resurrection of to be able to come through and bring all of that energy into a perfect form that none of us has control over and conceive of. It's I think that's connected to the ancient, many ancient civilizations had rites of sacrifice, almost all of them, sacred offering that, and the deeper knowing that we are not the material body, that we are an eternal soul, and death is,
is not the end.
Is not the end, and also not a tragedy, even, like what we've placed on it, that it's, it's connected to the non-attachment to the material, reality, actually, that when we can love it and let it go, can be infused with spirit and transformed. So
and become a force like the wind, right? Unseen but very much alive and around.
Exactly, yeah.
Around the globe.
Indeed, yeah. So when we said goodbye to our dear Maya Lotus in the hospital, and we played the Blue Lotus song that we had always intended to play for her when she was born, because it was written at the time of her conception, and we named her after that, and so we played it for her. It's interesting, it was at the moment of death, although perhaps that was really a different kind of birth for her, right? We thought it was going to be her birth into this world, but it was her birth into another world that song was played for her, and when we heard the lyrics of the song again, we just understood the profoundness of her purpose and of the sort of perfection of the way that this journey unfolded, and her purpose, and also the sacred returning her as a seed to the earth, because in order for the seeds that we sow must die in order to be resurrected, and that's one of the eternal truths and laws. And I think Jesus and different, there's some amazing spiritual leaders that have demonstrated that very much in their life. So, that truth. So we have the Blue Lotus song is we're going to share the Blue Lotus song with you here today, and we hope that it, that the spirit of Maya Lotus can can spread around the world, and really that we can together resurrect this lotus from the mud. That's the beautiful part of the lotus in the story, is that it hides beneath the surface of the water in the mud, and every day it rises, shows itself, and
then goes back.
And then goes back, So I think that's why it invoked such imagination from the ancient people, that it's like the world that we're in now, that right below the surface, although you can't see it, there's this beautiful lotus that is this part of this seed that we're co-creating globally, of co-creation of a new civilization rooted in love. And although it can't be seen yet, maybe very strongly from the surface, it's there, and it is rising.
You can feel it.
Yes.
You can feel it.
Yes.
Yeah, you can feel it rising.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's great. So we can listen to the song now, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
And I hope everyone enjoys it. Thanks very much for being with us.
Yeah,
Mona.
thank you.
I'll put the song on. Okay, so this is the Blue Lotus song.
Written by, it's recorded by Gautier Velisaris, who is a dear friend of ours who has joined us on the alchemical marriage journey.
Okay.
On the land where the sand turns to gold, we are waiting for a holy story to unfold. Standing upon the shores of the unknown, a fallen star turns all our fears to hope. Burning equals to ash, letting go of the past. On the times when you embark on the path of creation, deep transformation. Start with yourself if you wanna change a nation. Put the seed in the earth, feel and see the rebirth. Our create and laugh together. Our love will shine forever when we plant the lotus. Everywhere the lotus. Our create and laugh together. Our love will shine forever. Our love will shine forever. For the flower in the desert, our love will shine forever. For the flower in the desert. Surrender to the power of our elements. Embrace the masculine and the feminine. Free your passion and share your precious gifts. To see how the energy in the world shifts. Beauty in the skies and beauty in the trees. Beauty comes from all our unity. Breathe in, breathe out. This is what life's rhythm is about. Put the seed in the earth, feel and see the rebirth. But our create and laugh together. Our love will shine forever when we plant the lotus. Everywhere the lotus. But our create and laugh together. Our love will shine forever. Our love
Really beautiful.
Thank you.
طل واخواني